Hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, my beauties. Welcome, my lovelies. Welcome to my first episode of Live Beyond Boundaries. My name is Nidirah. And first, I just want to thank you for being here, for clicking on this iPod because it interests you. It drew you to here, to this place in this time, because there's some sort of message that I need to give and you need to hear. I'm not quite sure exactly what that message is, but by the end of this podcast, we will both know. Just so excited. I'm so thankful and I'm so honored. Because it's not easy to live beyond boundaries. It's not easy to choose to show up every day and be your best self. To look at yourself truly and authentically, not through what I like to call the filters of your experiences. And while there is a time and a place for that, it's also a time and place to look at yourself truthfully. And I have learned that lesson over the past few months. Definitely since COVID has kicked off, because there's a lot of time to sit with yourself and think about things that you don't want to think about. And I have noticed with myself that attempting to find the balance between letting my thoughts go and process and run through and say what they got to say so that they can move on, and stopping myself from having these thoughts or trying to have these thoughts. And try is a terrible word to use, but we're going to use it right now for lack of a better word. You get to this point where you're like, okay, these thoughts are coming in my head. However, I don't want to think them because I don't want to manifest this for myself. However, we do need to take time to analyze our thoughts. Why am I thinking this? Why am I paralyzed by this particular fear? What can I do to neutralize this fear? How can I push past and turn this fear into a triumph? And so don't get so caught up in, I'm trying not to think this thought. I'm trying not to think this thought. Don't think this thought. Don't think this thought. Because it's going to make you think the thought even more, because you're pushing it away. And that's how the law of attraction fundamentally works. It's definitely a lot more to it. But fundamentally, you bring about what you are emotionally tied to, right? It's not so much about the thought itself. If it's repetitive, it's probably repetitive because you have some sort of resistance to it, a fear. And that is the universe bringing to your attention, hey, you need to deal with something in relation to this. Codependency is a huge thing that some people aren't even aware that they're experiencing. And there's levels to codependency. There's levels to everything. So now that that is understood, letting the thoughts come, it's something about these certain thoughts that just grip you in the gut and choke you choke you in the gut. If you have ever been there, you know exactly what I mean. Some people refer to it as being punched in the gut. You kind of just have to breathe out and process that information. And codependency was what it was for me. Like, I had known that it was a thing, but it really came to a head, recently. And, Mercury in retrograde is going through my first house and my 12th house. So this is all about communicating my truths, communicating my individualities, just on a basic level, communicating what I need to communicate to whomever I need to communicate it with. And sometimes that's telling on yourself. Sometimes that's telling on other people. Sometimes that's ending something. Sometimes it's ripping the Band-Aid out and letting the wound heal properly, because wounds need fresh air. They need freshness. That's why people change their bandages multiple times a day. But there comes a certain point where you take the bandage off and just allow it to heal. And I guess that's the point that I'm at right now. Like, I've recognized the codependency, and so now it's, where is your peace? And the peace cannot be outside of yourself. Absolutely, honestly, truly, it cannot be outside of yourself. Where is the peace within you? And you have to find that, or you will always be codependent on people to validate your feelings and your emotions. And first of all, it's really not a good feeling. In that moment, it feels good, but it's fleeting. It's not lasting. And so what is needed is that hard look at yourself. No matter how ugly she or he is, no matter how ugly they are, you have to look at that and start to integrate that part of yourself. Recognize it for really and truly what it is. This was, at a point of time, something that you needed in order to survive in whatever situation that you were in at that time when it developed. Usually, codependency starts to develop in childhood. Most shadows do. And over time, they evolve. Sometimes you're able to heal it, and other times it grows into a monster, so to say. Maybe that's where truly the term devil came from, having to deal with your shadow, your monster, your darkness. And nothing is wrong with your shadow. Nothing is wrong with your monster. Nothing is wrong with your darkness. It's a tool. It's a tool that you need sometimes in order to protect yourself, in order to really analyze a situation and really see it for the truth that it is, the authenticity that it reveals about yourself. Wow, and sometimes it's really scary. And we live within these boundaries of society, family, any gathering or congregation of people who you care about their opinions. You all agreed that this was morally wrong, or this is not a good fit for you. And this could be culturally, This can span over cultures. It can span over geographic areas. It can expand into religious areas and dogma. And it really puts you in this box. And you're going to outgrow the box eventually. You're going to have to get out of that box. So let's try not to get in the box, period, right? By being real and upfront with ourselves and finding our peace. And that is where I am, finding my peace within myself. There are relationships in my life that I truly, truly, truly care about. However, it choked me in a way where we weren't being authentic with each other, with ourselves, and we convinced ourselves that it was for a good reason. It was for the greater good. But that was a lie, to keep ourselves within this box. And we all know that sometimes taking the Band-Aid off is not pleasurable. It hurt like hell. It really does hurt like hell. And sometimes that pain lasts for a few moments. And other times that pain lasts for hours, for days. Sometimes even after surgery, you could be in pain for weeks or even months. And as above, so below, as within, so without. And while physically this does happen to our physical bodies when we have health concerns or injuries, but it happens to us emotionally, etherically, because the physical is the slower moving energy, right? So it has already started to develop and transpire and conclude in the emotional and etheric range. And that's okay. That is okay too, because this is a learning process for everyone, for all of us. I am definitely not a know-it-all. I am definitely struggling every day with my own energies and my own shadows and attempting to integrate it into my daily life for me to recognize, like, okay, I have a tendency of being codependent, and I need to set healthy boundaries for myself. And not really so much as a boundary, but maybe a mile marker. Hey, you tend to rely too much on the validation from people that you're romantically involved in. And there was a point in time where I was taught that this is what you do. This is how you have a healthy marriage, a healthy relationship, a healthy partnership. And to a certain effect, that is true, because it does take balance between the people involved. But you also need to make sure that you're staying within your truth as well. You get that twinge in your chest, in your gut. Hey, it's time for you to focus. It's time for you to pay attention. What is this feeling trying to tell me? Am I stepping beyond my boundaries and this is a good thing? Or am I not speaking my truth? And this is not in alignment with my spirit, with my soul. How can I correct this? Where is this taking me? And I am one to believe that I have a spirit team that supports me on this journey. And I ask these questions to them and also to myself, to my higher self that can see more of the chessboard, and while telling on yourself feels absolutely terrible, at least for me it does, it was liberating, but also debilitating is the word that I would say. It really broke me down. It really made me weak. It made me weak in my stomach. It made me weak in my legs and in my knees. It made me weak in my head. And I really have to spend a lot of time in nature right now to heal myself of that, to forgive myself, to accept what I did, own up to it without any excuses, and move on in a new place where I am being myself, where I am true to myself. And it doesn't matter what anybody do or say to me, because I know my truth. I took the time to know myself. I took the time to question myself. I took the time to accept myself and show myself compassion and love and acceptance, and live in that authentic truth of, this was the fucked up shit that I did, and I own that shit. Not because it was the right thing to do, but because it was something that I did. And for whatever reason, this had to show me, it had to teach me, it had to help me realize who my true self is, so that I can live her authentic truth. Right? And sometimes this truth is not accepted by the ones that you love. Sometimes you are outcast. Sometimes they decide to walk away forever, temporarily, whatever the reason. And one thing that is so hard for me to wrap my head around, but I know is the truth, is that it has nothing to do with me. Yes, my action triggered the situation, but their decision has nothing to do with me. It is about them and what they need in their life, what their soul needs, what they need to face, what they choose to accept in their life. And while it's hurtful, while it would take time to heal, the truth must be accepted. And we have to accept that everyone is on their own path. They have their own scope of vision. And while some things are hurtful to us, again, the message here is that we have to look at ourselves. We have to look within ourselves to really find out why, to really seek that strength that we need, that find that inner peace that is needed. Find that inner peace. How can I cultivate this inner peace? How can I grow this inner peace? In class, my instructor used a brilliant analogy that I want to share with you, my beauties, my lovelies today. And it's the hot air balloon. Okay, so we all know how hot air balloon works. there are bags, sandbags, that are tied around the basket of the balloon where the rider sits in. And this balloon is used, these sandbags are used to weigh the balloon down so that it doesn't go too high up. So what you do is you drop the sandbags in order to you drop the sandbags in order to rise up, to lift up. And when you are releasing guilt, when you're releasing codependency tendencies, when you release anger, when you release that victim mentality, you're dropping sandbags. You're able to raise your vibration so much easier. And there's a number of different tools that can be used to raise your vibration. And I'm going to go through these tools in another episode of the podcast. Because these are essential to recognizing we're going to call them shadows or darkness within yourself. And as I said, darkness is not bad. Darkness is needed. There is a balance to the universe, and everything has its place, everything has its position, everything has its time, because time is not linear, right? You can live multiple timelines at once. And there's people out here who do. And that is also another podcast episode. Living your authentic, true self. What do you guys think? What experiences are you going through now that are challenging you to look at your true self, to look at a part of yourself that you don't want to see? What are you doing to handle that aspect of yourself? Are you burying it away? Are you stuffing it in the closet? Metaphorically, obviously, but are you condemning that part of yourself? Are you angry at that part of yourself? Are you remorseful at that part of yourself? What is that part of yourself attempted to teach you? How can you integrate this darkness, this shadow into yourself? Except that you are this way, that this is what happened. And recognize the situations that brings this shadow out. Recognize the situations that bring this shadow out and nurture it. Love it. Do what you need to bring balance and peace to yourself. This could be meditating. This could be doing martial arts. This could be drawing. This could be singing, painting. This could be teaching. A lot of it can be tied to what your spiritual gifts are. And that is really what led me here to this podcast. Man, and speaking my authentic truth is a bad feeling. Temporarily a bad feeling because of judgment. Growing up, I was sanctified and filled with the Holy Spirit. As most Black women, I'm sure growing up, you is in the church. And the church can be so stifling in a way. It put these thoughts and beliefs in you, these boundaries that you can't grow and expand upon, and it's traumatizing. It is traumatizing. I have very strong feelings about how they conduct their business, but to each his own. Some people need that type of structure. Some people need that type of dogma. However, after a certain point of time, you're going to outgrow those boundaries. Your spirit is going to have to expand, and it's going to be tragic because you have to deprogram yourself from all of this fear is what it is. Ultimately, it is in fear that is ingrained in you. If you act this way or think these things, you're bound for hell. You're a terrible person. You cannot be trusted. And while there are all parts of these aspects in everyone, it does not mean that you're a bad person or that you're a terrible person. We all have the capability of doing good things and bad things, because one of the Hermetic laws is the law of polarity. Okay? So if you have the capacity to feel fear, you have the capacity to feel love. If you have the capacity to judge, you have the capacity to show compassion and empathy. And you need to show that to yourself first. You show it to yourself first, not to people outside of yourself, because the famous quote is what? You cannot serve from an empty cup. You cannot show someone else true compassion if you cannot show it to yourself. And you are deserving of love, compassion, empathy, acceptance, forgiveness of yourself. And we're not going to go into who the self actually is. That is another podcast, which I'm so excited because I already have about 3 podcasts that I can record to get this information out there. Because when you keep it to yourself, you're not growing or expanding. So I did not really mean to talk for so long. But I did just want to put this out there, put this truth out there. And maybe down the line, these episodes will become more planned out and, outlined with a nice flow to it. But for now, Spirit is like, you need to get out here. You need to talk about it. You need to get it off your chest. You need to share your life, share your experience, because there is someone out there that needs to hear it from you. And you don't have to be ashamed of what you're going through, because a lot of people, and I want to say everybody, is going through their own little personal hell in a way. And when we share some of that hell, we release ourselves from it. We transcend it, right? Releasing, we're transcending it. We grow, we expand. So, I've been getting back into my magic. I want to say about 2 or 3 years ago, I was really hitting magic hard, really hitting it hard. I was doing a ritual pretty much anytime I had free time, anytime I had a day off. I was absolutely in the basement, drawing my magical circles, invoking my angels or my demons or whomever I'm working with, whatever energy signature I was working with. And that really helped me to balance myself. And I got out of that practice, being so enthralled with mundane living, having to work and take care of children and all of those things. All of those things took me away from my practice. And slowly and surely, things that I thought I had handled surely start to come back up. So this definitely gave me the indication that this is like feeding your body. You know, you just don't eat once and you satiate it for forever, for the rest of your life. You have to eat multiple times a day. You have to drink water multiple times a day. You have to sleep every day, or you can only go so long without sleeping before your body is like giving out and shutting down on you. So these things need to be done on a consistent basis. So it's important that we face ourselves truthfully, no matter what other people think, because they cannot live your life and they have to face their own truths. They have to face their own realities. They have to forgive their own self. And you have to do the same. I have to do the same. We have to teach our children that they have to do the same. I really hope that there was some gems that I dropped here for you. And if nothing else, if nobody ever listened to this, I know that I spoke my truth. And I know that I have to use my tools to find my personal peace. My personal peace. I love you, I love you, I love you. I love you, I love you, I love you. And I wish you all the best. Join me next time as we get into it. It might be a different subject. It might not be. Just know that you are loved. You are protected. You are guided. And I know some of the shit that's going on in your life, you're like, this cannot be what I'm guided to. But you know what? It definitely is. It definitely is. You make no missteps. You make no missteps. You are supported. You are guided. Your spirit team is there for you. They are protecting you. Just call out to them. And watch for the synchronicities. And we could talk about synchronicities too. That would be another video. Awesome. So now I have 4, not videos, but podcasts. So now I have 4 different topics. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited for you being here. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you. I support you. I believe in you. And I believe that we are changing the world just by focusing on our own self. Just by expanding our own self-knowledge, self-acceptance. Together, us doing our own personal work raises the vibration of this planet. It heals We heal each other. I love you. Until next time, be blessed.